So I'd like to
get off Facebook.
Yeah, I'd like to call the Engrossment Rules, Resolution, and Credentials Committee to order.
And I will call the roll. Alderman Rhodey. Alderman Kennedy.
Here.
Alderman Ballmer.
Present.
Alderman Vaquero.
Present.
Alderwoman Engracia.
Present.
Chairwoman Davis.
Present.
We have 5 present and we have a quorum.
Okay. So we wanted to do an update and a report on resolution number 207. As we had discussed previously, we believe that there's some work that we need to do through this committee. We just started by having the presentation done by Khatib Wahid. Also, since that time, some additional things have been done on behalf of employees for the city of St. Louis. And so first I'm going to ask Alderman Kennedy if he'd just like to give us a brief overview and then introduce our guest.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. As you said, this chair's up kind of
high. So was mine. My feet didn't touch the ground.
Some weeks ago, we had in, and we were lucky to have him, Khatib Wahid, who reviewed the whole concept of racial equity and the creation of a racial equity lens. St. Louis is fortunate to have him here. He's considered one of the leaders in that area. Many of the other organizations and institutions that are involved in helping to create racial equity lens for various cities and institutions around the country refer to Khatib Wahid. He reviewed with the committee, if you remember, the concept of what it is. He gave us a definition, talked about the issues and ramifications around it, and then a little bit, because it was a lengthy presentation, a little bit about how you use it as a measurement in relationship to making decisions. Since that time, he has been doing workshops with various administrative branches of the city, with the mayor's office and other officers throughout the city, and offices throughout the city, helping them to both understand and to gear up towards the creation of a racial equity lens. Now that's on the administrative side. So I thought it would be good if we brought in the director of CREA, the Civil Rights Enforcement Agency, our own Charles Bryson, to bring us up to date about what has been happening on the executive, the administrative branch, what they have been doing towards racial equity. And my understanding is still using Khatib as the reference and the trainer for that. So if you would come up and just talk a little bit about that and where things are. I think it would help the committee get a fuller picture of how to implement something. It is high. I don't know who comes in after.
Bunch of kids. Good morning to the committee, and thank you for the invitation. I will be brief. What the city has done, and the mayor and I met, I believe, on August 3rd to devise a strategy around creating an environment for racial equity in the city of St. Louis. And one of the things that we obviously understood was we needed to train our city officials, the department heads, the commissioners, on what racial equity is. But in my understanding of racial equity, one of the things that we need to understand is how did we get where we are? In fact, when you talk to most people in the industry, they will say that's the first thing, because your staff, as a director, wants to know, well, why am I doing certain things, or why certain policies or practices, why certain budget issues are taking place. Well, if you don't have that training and you don't have that understanding, then you're left with, well, then why are we doing this? In fact, St. Paul, Minnesota is becoming one of the leaders in racial equity, and what they told me was, we wish we had done this first. We wish we had told all of our staffs, various staffs of various departments, here's why we need to do this, and it makes it easier to move forward. So that is actually what we're doing. We had 75 commissioners and directors at the first training session. We've had 2 additional training sessions, which I believe Chairwoman Davis attended. We have 2 more actually for Monday and Tuesday of next week. So we will have roughly 300, I'll say 250 city department leaders, if you will, trained at least in the baseline of why why is this important? Why is this conversation, discussion about racial equity important? On October 31st, we have signed up with the Government Alliance for Racial Equity. They will be doing the sole source for our training. I may have missed one. The Government Alliance for Racial Equity has been doing this for a number of years. And they are literally the leader in training governments around policies, practices, procedures, using a racial equity lens, and most importantly, using a racial equity lens in budgeting. And one of the things that people said is, if you're going to do this right, you have to look at what your budgeting policies and practices are, and most importantly, you not only train the administrative team, but you train your elected officials, because you have to do this simultaneously. You have to walk down this road hand in hand. So we would be looking literally at how we can pair and partner with the Board of Aldermen to have various trainings before we get into the new budget season, which for all intents and purposes is January 1st, if you will. I will turn your attention to the last two. I'm not going to go through this lengthy thing, but if you look at the last 3 pages, you can see where the Government Alliance for Racial Equity has been conducting training. So they've been doing it not only in the cities, but they've been doing it in the counties, and I believe there is one state that is mentioned as well. So they have been out in the field helping cities deal with issues related to racial equity. So on October 31st, they will be coming into the city of St. Louis, and they will be conducting a racial equity training, looking at our policies, procedures, and practices, talking to us about budget and how you can budget for racial equity. There will probably be we're thinking two follow-up trainings before we get into the budget season in January. And with that, I'll stop and answer any questions anyone has.
One of the things I wanted to share very quickly, my ability to attend both of those training sessions, what I saw was a better understanding of where we all came from, irregardless of race, irregardless of ethnicity, because this country, the way it was formed, was very difficult, and it was very biased in many different ways. And so there were people sitting there, when their group was discussed, they were like, they had no idea. It's not taught in any history book. Someone has to go out and find this information and make it available and give it with true fact. And so it's interesting, and it also allows people, I noticed too, in the breaks, I made sure I said with a different group in the breaks, the discussions that they were having were so real. It was very, very, very well received. In the 2 days I went, there was only one guy that was a little upset, but he was upset because he said, I have no racial problems. I have no problems with anybody for any reason. But that's not it. It's not that you have one, but you need to understand where you are, where you came from, and how you will probably proceed. And so once we explained that to him, he was okay after that. He was okay. So I think that this is definitely needed. I'm glad to see you've gone to the next step. That was one of the things that we had talked about in our first committee meeting is, how will we even approach this? Because we don't have a real budget here to do anything. And we knew that we would have to rely on other agencies to help us get this done for the city. And I'm also going to offer to you that if you believe that there's someone else we need to talk to get them on board, please share with us.
I will. I think, first of all, thank you for the comments. I do believe it was very well received. We don't do pre, but we do a post sort of evaluation, and he's garnered much applause for just doing it straight down the line. Here's what happened. I think the important part now really is working with the Board of Aldermen around the issues of moving this forward. If there's some baseline training that needs to occur whoever wants to sign up, we'd figure out a way to deal with that. The baseline training is a good indicator, a good starting point to understanding, as you say, but it is also very, very important that we walk down this road together, and that the Government Alliance for Racial Equity can come in and, you know, whether it's 28 aldermen or 20 aldermen, however many number want to be there, we'll figure it out. But we really need to walk down this road together because we need to be on one page.
May I?
Yes, sir.
Are you suggesting that we participate in the training that's coming up at the end of October, or to do a specific one with the Board of Aldermen? Or do you have a recommendation?
My recommendation, because the internal discussion may look a little different,
Right.
that there be a separate training
Right.
just
That's what I
for
would
the
think.
Board of Aldermen, as there is for the city departments. But Julie Nelson, who is my contact with the Government Alliance for Racial Equity, has basically said, I'll do whatever I need to do. So they're willing to get here literally by the end of the year to do another training. Let the city departments have their conversation, train for the Board of Aldermen, and then we sort of figure out what that dance looks like after that.
Okay.
Madam Chairman, may
right
I
ahead,
speak
sir.
on a little bit? The resolution sets forth that this committee is supposed to make a report back with its findings and recommendations. Based upon this information, and that there'll be money coming from that side of government to pay for this side of government to have this training. Assist with,
Assist
which means
with,
pay
okay.
for. We'll determine what the assist looks like.
Yes.
That perhaps the recommendation, the report and recommendation back to the full board would be that we have this training.
Okay. Well, you know I'm always busy on a mission, so I took what I learned from the additional training, and I've talked to both of the universities, and they are interested. They believe that their staff should go through it as well. But the larger universities said, how can I assist? So of course they have facilities, they have food, they have the ability to provide, you know, if we need a lot of clerical assistance on preparation, those kinds of things. And so I think that it would be good to be in touch with, we can start with Dr. Jonathan Smith. We'll start with him, and then move on to decide, you know, how is it that they can help us? Because we know it's very difficult sometimes to make these things happen. And that's why we have community. Community is supposed to work together. Now, I wanted to make sure, did anyone else have any questions, comments? Alderman Ballmer?
No, it's pretty self-explanatory.
Yes, it is, sir. Thank you very much. Alderman Vaccaro?
No.
You good? Alderwoman Engrossment?
Just a couple quick questions. With respect to the report, do we want to make a recommendation at this time for there to be a standing committee that continues to look at racial equity, or do we think the ad hoc committee and what we're doing right now is all we need to do?
I would think we may eventually get to that, but everybody's not at the base. I would say that the recommendation is just simply to do the training.
Right.
And then continue work after that, and we can make that in the recommendation, in the report. We recommend doing this training and continuing through this committee, if the chair is fine with it, to look at it and see what we should structure after that.
Right, so we're not finished, I guess is what
No.
you're saying. Okay, that's what that was.
That was your direct question, though?
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
I wasn't trying to take the long run.
Yeah.
And
And thank you. I mean, we were at the presentation that Julie Nelson did with Dr. Norm White, and it was really, it was exceptional.
It was Julie Nelson and
I can't remember her colleague's name.
Glenn, somebody,
Yeah.
but the
Oh,
which-
yeah.
that we read a
Forget his name,
training.
right.
But what struck me immediately with that is when they started out in their presentation and they talked about the leaders in this field, the first name up there was Khatib Wahid.
Mhm,
I
yeah.
said, he's here local, we can call him and go
Oh,
by his
yeah,
house.
yeah.
Right.
That
And
really struck me.
am I, if I'm available, would I be able to sit in on part or all of the training that the leaders are receiving on Monday and Tuesday? I'm just
Yes.
Okay.
It's 8:30 to 4, plus or minus. Lunch is provided. It'll be at 1520 second floor.
Okay.
And I would encourage everyone, I mean, if you can't stay the whole day, just take some of it in.
Right.
I think,
Yeah, because like I caught the first part one day and the second
Second
half
part
the
the
next
other
day.
day, yeah.
Okay.
Because I couldn't stay all day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
so we would, I just need to know in advance to make sure that lunch is provided. So if anybody else wants to attend,
Yep.
just let me know like 12-ish or 1-ish today so that I can phone the lunch order in.
Sure.
Madam Chairman, if I may. So we would need, the resolution requires us to report back. And so I can construct something, get your review, and if you wish to submit it to the committee.
Well, one of the things I was going to ask you is if you believe that we need to do a written report now and/or just do an oral report on the floor on the progress that's been taken and then move forward for the next session.
I would think to go ahead and do a written report.
Okay.
Because that makes we have a hard copy as well as the video. I would think that's my thinking.
Okay. So.
Committee sees something different. And it can be constructed easily.
Okay. Okay. Charles, did you have anything else you
No,
want to
ma'am.
share? Okay.
Well, I would. The other thing that is sort of going on simultaneously is CREA is working with St. Louis Association of Community Organizations, or SLACO. And one of the things we're doing is we're working with them on having neighborhoods, two very different, dissimilar, as I would say, neighborhoods come together, and they tour each other's neighborhood on a Saturday, and then they have a facilitated lunch where they talk about each other's neighborhood, what they saw, pros and cons, issues that have arisen, and how to make the city a better place. So those have been going on. We've had two. We've got one this Saturday, which is College Hill and Shaw, and so they will be going through. They'll be going through each other's neighborhoods. We've got Fairground has been involved, and just a number of different neighborhoods. So, if I'm not asking you all to go, just to be aware that we're really trying to work hard to get on the other side of this. So we're talking about government and racial equity and issues. We're also talking about how does this play out in the communities. You know, I fully have been in the mayor's office 16 years. I know that when you are going to make hard decisions in city government around budget, you've got to take that back somewhere and hopefully a receptive audience. So we're also thinking about how do we make sure that neighborhoods know that these changes are coming and how they may or may not affect them in the long run. So we're doing that as well. So if you hear about it, I'm not asking anybody to go, but if you hear about it, just know about it, talk it up a little bit. It was the 2 times I've been, had a great time. Really involved, really engaged people.
Tower Grove East participated in.
Tower Grove was the first one with West End.
And got a lot out of it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And they're still chirping about it from what I hear.
Yes, they are.
So,
Sure.
can I ask a question very quickly?
Both.
Did you include businesses and institutions in those neighborhoods?
They do go to businesses. Actually, they have a facilitated lunch, so that is in a neighborhood business.
Okay.
But they do. They go through businesses. They tour through a business, tour through housing. So get a real feel. Where are the parks? That sort of thing.
Okay.
And it's all the neighbors themselves construct the tour. So this is a neighborhood-driven tour. This is our neighborhood. This is where we live every day.
This
Yeah.
is good. Okay.
So I thank you. I did want to mention that.
Okay. Well, I like that. That sounds really good. So, in conclusion for this meeting today, we have surmised that a written report will be developed and will be presented to the board to show what progress has been made towards resolution number 207. We will also have the ability to explore training for the Board of Aldermen in the very near future. And it will be the same training that was offered to the staff of the city.
Yes.
And then we'll continue to explore everything that's being done with the Government Alliance on Race and Equity. So if we see anything in the community that we believe could also help towards these goals, I would suggest that we bring it back to the committee so we can have a conversation about it. you almost can't do too much. There's no such thing as that. Everywhere I go here lately, I find myself with different issues that are going on that take away from the ability to have progress. And it's mainly because people are having racial discussions in the middle of everything else. And somehow some organization needs to come to all of that. So,
If I may, I
Yes,
just
sir.
want to thank you, Madam Chairman, for having
Yes, sir.
the meeting today and
Yes.
entertaining all of this in the committee,
yeah.
for being sensitive enough to hear it and to work on it.
All right. Well, I thank all of you all because it was kind of quick. But we got here, we got it done, and we still have time to take a deep breath before our session starts. Meeting is adjourned.